Hi, I'm John Malos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Thursday morning. We're glad you're here. Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno is a sponsored program, but not on this day. You can still call in at 436-MeTV option 11. Today we're talking about the Chamber of Commerce and what they have to do with the city of Fresno. We have the president and the CEO in the house, the brand new one. That's right. He'll be along to take your phone calls, talk about downtown Fresno, maybe the stadium, sale of the Grizzlies, and what the role is of the Chamber. Back in just a moment.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
Glad you're here on a Thursday morning. Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno, a very exciting program. We've had some pretty exciting shows this week and more to come next week here on the broadcast. And we always welcome our guests to take phone calls, and we encourage you, the viewer at home, to pick up the phone and dial and let the fingers do the walking, right? That's an old term, an old saying, of course. Haven't heard that in a long time, but you can call us. We have an open phone line every Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the morning. Quick programming note for tomorrow, another barn burner here at Connect with Me. It'll be the mayor of Fresno, Lee Brand, his second appearance here as mayor of Fresno. Of course, during the campaign last year, he was on, it seemed like he was on every week, him and Henry Perea battling back and forth. Eventually, Brand won out, and so the administration moving forward. Are you happy with what's happening within the administration? We'll talk to him about sanctuary cities. It again came up today in a news conference with Homeland Security Chief, and it was John Kelly doing the news conference, and we'll talk to him about that, but we'll also specifically talk to him about downtown, marijuana, the Grizzly sale. What else do you want to talk about? Well, you can call in tomorrow. Then on Monday, we'll talk about free TV. Free television. Many of you watch us on free television with one of those digital antennas. We'll talk to Gary Kokola. Scott Barbie will be here. Scott Barbie is a guy that used to work at Comcast Cable Television. He no longer works there. So free TV versus cable or satellite, which do you prefer? You know, cable bills are going up and many people are going to these digital antennas. By the way, on Wednesday, we're going to talk about the Grizzlies, and the current owner is going to be in here. His name is Chris Cummings. He's looking to sell the team. It's not over till it's over. Yes, the council voted 7-0 on Monday, but still a lot of things have to fall in place in order for the sale to happen. You're watching us live on Comcast, channel 375, as usual, Monday through Friday. Call-in program 10 to 11. You know the number. If you don't have Comcast cable, as I just said a moment ago, about 100,000 of you out there have over-the-air broadcast with a digital antenna. It's 43.6 and 13.1 over-the-air broadcast. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the over-the-air broadcast viewers can watch us at 2, 13.6 YouTube, 8 o'clock tonight, 4.6 Biz TV. After that, it's on YouTube from now until the end of time. You know, when I started this program some 5 years ago, I didn't expect to actually still be sitting here 5 years later. But thanks to Mark Sheeran, the owner, president, CEO, and the head man at Ventura TV, and this broadcast, Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno, he's allowed me to build a program to interview everyone. And I'm talking politicians, I'm talking athletes, I'm talking about just general people in the community that have a very interesting story to tell. And there have been many stories to tell right here in the Central Valley, and that's what I've tried to do with this program. And my first guest 5 years ago in 2012 was Al Smith. He was the president and the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce at that time. He since has retired. There's a new man in town sitting in his seat. I want to roll the videotape, my friends. Thanks, Al Smith, for 5 years ago becoming my first guest ever here on Connect with Me. But as we move on, there is a new chamber president, as I said. He's taken the reins despite having a bigger responsibility, a brand new family, a newborn baby at home. This may be the best time of his life. Leading the way at the chamber is a big-time job. Boy, you have a board to answer to. You've got business people to answer to. You have to promote the city of Fresno. So just how tough is it going to be to tout the city of Fresno, smack dab in the middle of the state, landlocked, been the butt of jokes. Now a recent study ranking Fresno as the 15th worst in the nation for bad drivers. How about the 5th worst for DUI drivers? Not only that, you have this long-standing debate ever since I've been here about downtown Fresno. Fulton Street about to open up. When? People are still not flocking to downtown Fresno. There is still a perception of fear, not much in the way of family and nighttime entertainment, and parking is limited, and you have to pay. On top of that, the Grizzlies are a small draw. Now they are being sold, supposedly. Will a sale turn things around for downtown Fresno? I do not know, my friends. If I had a crystal ball, I would tell you. If we had a crystal ball some 15, 17 years ago when this thing was built and the Grizzlies came to town, of course, we'd all be millionaires by now, right? But downtown has come a long way. You know, 20 years ago, there was no stadium downtown, and thank goodness there is now, because at least they can build upon that centerpiece called the Chuck Chansey Park. Live in our studio right now is Nathan Ahle, the president and CEO of the Fresno Chamber of Commerce. He takes over for Al Smith. As I said, Al was my first-time guest right here in 2012, the first week in April, some 5 years ago. Where is Al now? He might be home watching this program. Got to invite you back, Al. 436-ME-TV, option 11. One of the issues I want to get into is what the role of the chamber is right here in the city of Fresno. It's to promote the city of Fresno. How do you do that? Back in just a moment.
When you're looking for KitchenAid innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, will help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified KitchenAid appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
The following is another list of dates you will not hear on MeTV programs. Man cave, baby bump, whatevs, double half-calf mochaccino, faux hog, redonkulous, totes adorbs, hella, holla, YOLO, cray-cray, and MeTV is still Kardashian-free. This is what you will hear on MeTV programs.
Welcome, Dano. The Twilight Zone. About bulls.
I object, Your Honor.
Mr. Grant.
I hear you right. You heard me right.
MeTV. Thanks for listening.
Back here on the program, and as I said, when we started this program some 5 years ago, we try to interview everybody in all walks of life, whether you're an artist, whether you're a politician, whether you're a sportscaster, whether you're a newscaster, you're an athlete, whatever it is that you're involved in the community of Fresno or the Central Valley per se. We've even had guests from Bakersfield and Los Banos. So now, another first-time guest, Nathan, I hope I'm pronouncing the last name correctly. It kind of rhymes with Sally. Ahle, right?
Ahle.
Ahle.
Jolly, Folly.
Jolly, Folly.
Any of the above.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me,
First time.
John.
I'm
Great
sure
to be
Al
here.
Smith would be proud of you. You're a much younger guy, by the way.
No, not really. No.
Anyway,
You're only as young as you feel. And with
That's
a,
right.
With a, with
That's
a newborn at home, I feel pretty old right
Congratulations.
now. Thank you.
So how old? How old?
4 weeks tomorrow. So,
Okay.
yeah, little boy. Little
Yeah,
Jake.
I see some bags under
Yep,
the eyes.
yep.
Not much sleep,
No.
about 3 or 4 hours.
This is a very comfortable chair, so if I nod off during the breaks, don't be offended. Just nudge me a little bit.
I'm not. So you've been on the job for how long now?
About a year and a half. About a year and a half.
And
And this is a
you came from Bakersfield.
I did, yes. Yes, came from Bakersfield, the chamber down there where I was doing the government affairs work.
Yeah.
For the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. And prior to that,
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
So you were doing what in Bakersfield?
government affairs.
And that involved what?
All of the public policy, all of the advocacy work that the chamber would do, all of our
Okay.
political action efforts, very similar to what we have here in Fresno with our Vice President of Government Affairs.
So how is that helping you here in this job?
Well, the interesting thing about Fresno is, I would say that from a political standpoint, and you mentioned in your monologue that Mayor Brand and former Supervisor Perea were here every week during the campaign.
Well, not quite. I was exaggerating
sure.
and being facetious, but it seemed to me like they were here every week because they were touting their agenda. And we were glad to have them.
Right.
But two very different types of people.
But things up here are much more splintered, contentious. Down in Bakersfield,
raucous.
Right. Down in Bakersfield, it's a question of which flavor Republican do you like. You know, it's.
Well, you got Kevin McCarthy down
Yes.
there, and he's, you know, listen, he's not a piece of cake, is
No,
he?
no. Good. I've known Kevin for a long time.
You have?
I have. Yes.
And
he is a very charismatic gentleman, and I think he's
single-minded,
I don't know that I would say that.
narrow-minded.
I don't know that I would say that either. I think he is.
But I'm talking about his political point of view. He's not open to debate too much.
No, I don't think so. I
Okay.
think he, you know, I think as the leader of the party, he's got a playbook to run, and that's what he's going to run. But
Yeah.
I think once you get him a little more one-on-one in a setting like this, he's very open to having a conversation.
Right, because it seems like right now, I don't want to get into this because it's national politics. I want to focus on the local, but it seems like, you know, the Republicans not willing to debate with any of the Democrats right now, especially on health care. So, and McCarthy being the leader of the party, very interesting that, you know, the two parties, and I guess it was kind of the same way maybe when Barack Obama was on, and the Democrats controlled, they weren't willing to negotiate on Obamacare. So it seems like the two parties are, you know, head and head. No, there's no debate, no negotiation. But in Bakersfield, you seem to think that the politics is less contentious than it is here.
In a different way, because again, it's a much more, what's the word I'm looking
Civil?
for? No, I wouldn't say civil, but it's a much more nonpartisan type thing. Because, again, which flavor of Republican do you want? Are you a Tea Party Republican? Are you a Reagan Republican? The numbers, the voter registrations, the party affiliations, the elected officials that represent that area are almost entirely Republican. Whereas here, we have a lot more diversity in terms of political viewpoints, which makes it very challenging, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so more diversity here in terms of viewpoints from a political standpoint. So where does your role come in? But I didn't finish the other question, which was how has your previous job in Bakersfield helped you? Has it helped you immensely in being the president and CEO here?
Absolutely.
How so?
Well, just getting the handle on how to handle you know, politicians of any type and some of the issues that face the Valley. I told the folks when I interviewed for this position that Fresno and Bakersfield have more in common than we, I think, either side wants to admit. And
Such as, what do we have in common with Bakersfield?
So many.
Other than the fact that it's hot.
Well, that's one, but so many of the same issues. We are often neglected by Sacramento. Often put on the back burner in terms of things like water, in terms of things like transportation, in terms of fair shares of state funding. The Bay Area and the LA Basin control those
Outlets.
those issues, those outlets, if you will. And the Central Valley is often getting the short end of the stick.
As is Bakersfield?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my suggestion and what I talked about when I interviewed for the position was we need to think a little more regionally. We need to, the Central Valley as a whole, from Bakersfield to Tulare, Visalia, to Fresno, up north to Merced, Modesto, needs to be looking at some of these broader state issues, some of the air quality issues, the energy issues, the ag issues, needs to be looking at them more regionally. We have a louder voice when we work as a region.
And the answer was?
Okay.
What was the response from the people interviewing, the board that interviewed you?
Well, they brought me in, so I guess they liked it. The answer is...
But did they agree with your analysis?
I think so.
Because sometimes we get narrow-minded here. We don't think of the broader issues. We don't think of the overall broader picture here in the Central Valley. We just think of our own issues. And California, would you agree, is almost like three separate states?
Oh, without question.
You got the North, the Central, and of course the South, and they're completely different.
Without question. And I think the board was willing to hear a response, or hear someone come in with a point of view that says, let's be more regional about this. Let's work to promote the valley as a whole, because it benefits Fresno, it benefits Fresno County, it benefits our area. As a Chamber of Commerce, my borders don't end at Kingsburg at the county line. They don't end at the river going north.
Where do they end?
The valley. If you think you're in the valley, you're in the valley, and we're going to fight for you, because it's good for the valley businesses, it's good for Fresno.
Yeah, and the reason I asked you about the board and what their reaction was, because they could have sat there, yeah, they hired you. Of course they did. I mean, that goes without saying. That's why you're here. But, you know, I'm just curious about the reaction. Was it like, yeah, okay, Nathan, we get it. Now, next, you know what I mean? Kind of like taking your response maybe not as seriously as maybe they should have, but kind of nonchalant. Were they nonchalant about it?
I don't think so at all. I think there was a recognition that we need to start to expand our reach beyond our borders a little bit. And that may mean that we build relationships with elected officials that don't necessarily represent Fresno County.
So you're talking about building relationships with people in Sacramento and Los Angeles?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Have you been able to do that in the last year and a half?
We have. We've had a couple.
Give me some examples.
Okay. The Fresno Chamber of Commerce has had at least 2, maybe 3, if I remember correctly, meetings with Senate President Pro Tem Kevin De Leon.
Okay.
Who represents Los Angeles. That's his home district.
Yeah.
And he's the leader of the Senate and a very, very powerful, outspoken, liberal, progressive Democrat.
One of the most powerful guys politically in California.
Absolutely. And he will take a meeting himself with the Fresno Chamber of Commerce. Why on earth would the President Pro Tem of the Senate, who represents Los Angeles and has probably never been to Fresno, if you'll remember a few years ago, he said there was nothing in the Central Valley but tumbleweeds. Why is he willing to take a meeting with a Central Valley business group?
If you pick up the phone and call him, will he take your call?
Yes, sir.
He will?
He will.
And how many times have you had meetings or discussed with him, either by phone or in person, issues regarding the Central Valley?
At least 3 or 4 times.
Okay. And is he open-minded to our issues? And what issues did you bring up with him?
We have discussed issues relative to water. We've discussed issues relative to high-speed rail. We've discussed, what else have we discussed? Air quality. We've discussed human resources issues, business-type related issues, sort of that. And he's always willing to listen. He is not going to pull any punches. He's going to tell you what he thinks. So it's one of those things where you're going to have to find as much common ground with him as you can. You're going to have to find ways to speak his language, which I think in a more conservative part of the state like the Valley is, it's often hard to speak that language.
I bet he's not happy that Fresno is not a sanctuary city, though. Have you ever discussed that?
We have not discussed that one specifically with him.
Yeah.
Because the chamber does not have a position on sanctuary city specifically, so we have not discussed that with him.
So no position on the chamber's part regarding that issue.
Not at this point.
But you did discuss water.
We did.
And he was open to what?
Well, one of the big focuses for the chamber this year is the Temperance Flat water storage project, which I'm sure you've discussed many times.
Oh, 100,000 times on this program.
And the message that we're working with the Joint Powers Authority, the folks here in the Valley that are working to bring temperance to life, is we've got to spread that message outside the Valley. If we preach to Jim Costa and we preach to Jim Patterson and we preach to Joaquin Arambula and Andy Vidak and Tom Berryhill, the benefits of Temperance Flat, we're preaching to the choir. They all know, they all agree, they're all working as closely together as they can to make it happen. We've got to talk to the folks in leadership. We've got to talk to the governor if we can, and we've got to make sure that the folks on the California Water Commission, in addition to those in legislative leadership and the governor, understand how important this is.
Right, but don't you also have to reach out to, I mean, do our leaders here have to reach out to other members of Congress, to other members of the U.S. Senate to go along with this program? Because this Temperance Flat is a combination of federal and state money, as I understand it.
Right, and I think those conversations are being had as well. Senator Feinstein is my understanding is that she's supportive of the Temperance Project, and has worked with Congressman Valadao, Congressman Costa, Congressman McCarthy even, on the water bills that they worked out for California, and some of those projects, such as funding for temperance, were included. The issue at this point, what we're most concerned about right now, is securing that state funding because it provides a match for federal dollars.
Yeah, and how much is that state funding? I know there was a bond that was passed,
There
the
was
water
a,
bond.
There was a bond. Don't quote me on the numbers that they're asking for, but it's I want to say $8 billion.
Is it $8 billion?
I think that
So then you're going to get the federal to feds to match that.
Maybe $8 billion was the total bond. The numbers escape me; they really do, John.
Okay,
But,
all right, no problem.
But I will tell you that we talk about two major water storage projects in California. One is Temperance, one is Sites Reservoir up north of
Right.
Sacramento. And I think there's a perception in the community and a perception around the state that it's an either-or proposition.
There's a third project you left out. The water tunnels.
Oh yes, the Delta tunnels as well.
The water tunnels is a big issue, but a lot of people seem to think it's going to cost over $1 billion. That'll never be built, not in our lifetime.
Right. But when we talk about water storage, those are the two surface storage projects.
The water tunnels are for water transportation
Right.
down to the valley. You're talking about two storage units.
Yes.
Okay.
And those, I think there's a perception that it's an either-or proposition, and it's not. There's enough money in the bond for both.
For the tunnels and for
the storage projects.
Okay.
The tunnels
the two storage
would
projects
be funded separately, but for the storage project, there's money for both of them. And I think it's important to remember that when we talk about folks like Kevin De Leon, is Temperance Flat is the only storage project being pitched that's south of the Delta.
Yeah.
It's the one that's affecting Southern California, which he represents.
All right. The president and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce is here in Fresno today. He is here on the set of Connect with Me. 436 MeTV option 11. Back with more of the conversation here in just a moment.
Not sure what you're watching? Want to see what's coming up next? Or just want to browse what's on without the hassle of flipping channels? Your wish has come true. Now you can view schedules for all the digital TV channels available in the Central Valley. Get local weather updates and forecasts, and listen to nationally syndicated Biz Talk Radio, all on KVHF 4.1. Rescan your TV now, then tune in to Digital Channel 4.1 to start enjoying the all-new TV Guide.
Frigidaire. It means the first electric refrigerator. The first compact electric range. Now, there's the Frigidaire Gallery Range with Symmetry double ovens. It's designed to cook multiple dishes at multiple temperatures, so you can prepare the entire meal at the same time. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
It's a big job, my friends, being the president and the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce here in the city of Fresno, especially in 2017. You have all these political issues, all these politicians, all these various groups, and of course we have a lot of diversity here in the city of Fresno with so many ethnic groups that make up this city, and it's almost politically divided, although conservative. Does the Chamber, and I think I've asked Al Smith this in the past, does the Chamber take a position of either being conservative or liberal?
We do not.
Okay.
The Chamber is not, despite what some people would think, the business wing of the Republican Party.
Okay.
That is
That's actually what I was getting at.
Yeah, that's a very common misconception, but I think it's a misconception that in the past, over the several decades, not just in Fresno, has some truth to it. We're business advocates. We're a lobby just like SEIU or like a teachers union. We lobby for business. So what that tends to mean is the majority of positions that we support or legislation that we support would happen to be authored by a Republican. But our PAC has in the past endorsed Democrats for public office. We have endorsed Republicans for public office. We do our very best to make sure that we find the best person or the best piece of legislation, the best position that's best for business, not necessarily best for one party or the other.
But who traditionally, like in the last election, who did you endorse
For
mayor?
Lee Brand.
Okay, see, so that adds to the perception that
It does.
you're conservative and you're playing to the base and you're playing to the business and you're playing to all the big shots. You see what I'm saying? So why would the Chamber, not to put you on the spot, but why would the Chamber endorse a candidate? Why don't they just stay out of the fray?
Well, the primary reason that we endorse candidates is because our members ask us to.
Okay.
It's interesting. We do surveys like most folks do. We survey our customers like any other business would. And statewide, regionally, very often chambers will ask their member businesses, why are you part of the chamber? And it could be for networking opportunities or to promote the community or because they think it's the right thing to do. And typically advocacy is about 6th or 7th on the list of why businesses join a typical chamber of commerce. Here in Fresno, it's a very close second. And I would imagine that in the next year or two, we do the survey again, it'll be the #1 reason people join us. Our members expect us to be politically active, and I think over the last few decades in Fresno, I think we've put together a pretty good track record. We endorsed Lee Brand because through his time on the Planning Commission and his time on the council, he's been fantastic for business. He's very fiscally sound. He's very fiscally smart.
He's meticulous with the numbers.
Without question. The man has a phenomenal mind for policy and a phenomenal mind for the numbers. And he's been a business owner he was a business owner for, I believe, over 2 decades, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And we think that he was, without question, the right choice. I think you had 2 very talented people who cared a lot about this community. I think both people had what they felt was the best interest of Fresno at heart, and I think as voters of Fresno, you can't ask for anything better than that, than 2 people that really love a community and want to see it move forward, even if they had different opinions on how to get there. But we felt that Mayor Brand, with his time in office and his voting record with us and just his support of pro-business issues, had earned our endorsement, and we think he's doing an absolutely phenomenal job.
So just to be clear, it was really the board of directors that wanted the chamber to endorse. They endorsed Lee Brand. They favored Lee Brand as the businessman that could lead this area, lead the community, be the leader of Fresno.
Well, the way it works is we have a political action committee, which is a board of about 13 members, either of our board of directors or members of the chamber who participate on this committee. And what they did is they brought in all the candidates for mayor in the primary, and then brought in or talked to the 2 in the general and made a decision to endorse.
So your political action committee interviewed both candidates?
Yes, sir. We interviewed everybody for mayor in the primary.
Everyone?
Because H. Spees ran for mayor, Doug Vagum ran for mayor. We interviewed everyone in the same room at the same time.
So what are these members, what do they do? Are they part of the board, or are they outside
of our PAC?
Political figures, the political action committee that makes of your the wing of the chamber?
Some of them are members of our ward, and some of them are members of the chamber, business owners that are members of the chamber that have expressed an interest in serving on that committee.
Yeah, and so they're the ones that kind of endorse Brand for the most part.
Yes, and the board ratifies it. The board signs off on it. I mean, it's not a position or an endorsement that's not done with the understanding of our board.
What specifically is the role of the chamber? Specifically, what is your job as chamber president? What is the role of the Chamber of Commerce? I know I've heard this 1,000 times. I've known many presidents and CEOs of the Chamber of Commerce in Visalia, up in Merced, here in Fresno, obviously. So, and I know it's to be pro-business, but I'm not sure I'm clear on what the role is and what the chamber does, what you do.
Well, I think you hit on it earlier. It was we promote Fresno. We promote the community to folks that are considering relocating a business here or opening a business here.
So you encourage business to come into Fresno?
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
Well,
when Fresno is such the biggest butt of jokes on late night TV, you know, we're landlocked here. We're not located by the sea. We have financial issues here. We have political issues here. This has often been called, and I've heard this for the last 20 years since I've lived in Fresno, this is the Appalachia of the West.
Wow.
You've never heard that?
Well, I'm new to town, so
okay,
to me,
I've been here since 1996, and I've heard that 21 years.
Wow.
I've heard that. So, so the unemployment rate, of course, is down, but at one time it was way up there.
Right.
Way up there.
But I think if you look at it through that lens, then yeah, you're right. If you think Fresno is the Appalachia of the West, then garbage in, garbage out, if that's the opinion that you think.
I'm
That's
talking about the person. See, you're an outsider.
That's my point.
You're an outsider, so I'm an outsider too.
Right.
And we look at Fresno differently than maybe the people that are natives here.
Possibly.
But go ahead. What was your perception of Fresno?
I see 2 hours to, well, maybe 3 hours. 2 hours to the coast, 3 hours to San Francisco, 3-ish hours to LA. I see an airport that can get you, may cost a little more, but can get you anywhere in the world, relatively easily.
Mm-hmm.
I see a highway system that other cities in the valley would be thrilled to have, thanks in large part to the Measure C efforts that the Chamber spearheaded under Al's time.
You're talking about 180, 168.
Absolutely.
What am I leaving out? 41. 99. Well, 99, they need to...
Well,
it needs fixing. That's
well, let me put
that's a different story.
Let me put it to you this way, John. When I lived in Bakersfield, and I worked downtown just like we do in Fresno, I lived closer to the Chamber in terms of miles, and it took me twice as long to get to work as it does here in Fresno because we have a highway system, and Bakersfield does not have a highway system.
Bakersfield only has Highway 99.
58.
Right? Oh, 58. That's right. I'm leaving 58.
And they're working on connecting 58 to I-5, but they got to rip apart half of central Bakersfield to do it.
Right.
So, fortunately, the voters of Fresno County were wise enough to pass Measure C to assess a tax on themselves to improve their roads. And then you look at things like that and you say, we have a highway system that gets people around the community efficiently. We have a central location in California that can enable people to get up and down 99 and up and down 5. And you see things like Alta and you see things like Amazon. And the mayor will talk about those.
Two businesses, by the way, that are on their way to Fresno.
Absolutely. And the mayor will talk about those tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But there's a reason that logistical hubs want to come here. It's because of those types of amenities. So if we look at it from the lens of we're the Appalachia of the West, then again, if that's the perception, that's your reality.
But what was your perception when you came here? Well, I mean, no, let me rephrase that. When you were in Bakersfield, just living in Bakersfield, your perception of Fresno was?
I didn't have much of one other than, we used to be rivals in ice hockey, I think it was. I'd only been to Fresno a few times. My wife went to grad school at Fresno State, and her perception was that it was a nice community. It was a little too big for her, but she was a native of Bakersfield. So I found that the more I got into Fresno, the more I looked around. I think it's a fabulous community. Yeah. I know we'll get to downtown, and we'll talk a little bit about downtown.
We are going to talk about downtown. We're going to talk about the Grizz. But I got to say something about Bakersfield because, okay, a little butt of a joke here. If there is such a thing, Bakersfield is flatter than Fresno. Is there such a thing as flatter than Fresno? Yes, Bakersfield.
That's probably true.
Okay. Anyway, that's not very funny, I know, but it's true. I mean, I just look at Bakersfield and I have this perception, and I'm sorry, but we go into Bakersfield. We have viewers in North Bakersfield, I know. So my apologies if you're a native of Bakersfield. Anyway, 436 MeTV option 11. Hey, Fresno's been the butt of jokes on Jimmy Kimmel, on all the late night talk shows. So has Bakersfield. So, join the club. 436 MeTV option 11, back in a moment.
Want to create something extraordinary? Create perfection. Our lifestyle appliances make it easy. KitchenAid, Ventura TV appliance, and you, when only the best will do.
You can find movies on over-the-air channel 13.3. Movies. Our name says it all.
All right, before we get to downtown, so what is the role of the Chamber?
What is the role of the Chamber of Commerce?
And what is your role as president and CEO, besides coming on shows like this one to tout what you're doing?
To tout what we do. Well, my role is the board of directors, which is 23 members of our chamber that have been elected to
Business,
to serve on the board.
people.
Right, business folks. They developed the vision. They developed the strategic goals we want to focus on water this year. We want to focus on high-speed rail this year. We want to focus on the election cycle this year. We want to focus on Fulton Mall, the maintenance facility, whatever the case might be. And my job is to carry that out. I manage our staff. I execute our action plan, which I know sounds pretty vague, but it's one of those things where we come up with our major focuses for the year, and my job is to drive the bus and get there and get the board the vision they want. The chamber as a whole, again, we promote business, we promote the Fresno community, we provide we work with our friends at the Economic Development Corporation to attract and retain businesses to the area like we were talking about in the last segment, but we also take our existing businesses and make sure that they have the tools that they need to be successful. If they have a problem with City Hall, if they have a problem with a zoning issue with the Planning Commission, if they're running into HR difficulties, those sorts of things, it's our job to help them.
All right, you have an action plan together. Okay, in 2017, you have several things on the table. I want you to give me priority number one. You have downtown on that Fulton Street opening up. You know what Brand thinks of it. You know what the previous mayor thought of it. They want to open it up, and Craig Chardon was on the show last week, and you know he's touting downtown as having great things happening right now, and people are flocking down there. I challenged him on that. So you have the downtown issue. You have businesses moving in. You got Alta, you got Amazon, you got the Grizzlies sale that kind of fits into the downtown discussion. You've got Manchester Center opening up a brand new facility. They're remodeling. It's going to look like a completely different shopping center. What else do you have? So what's number one on the agenda for you?
For the chamber in 2017.
For 2017, 2018, what's number one? What's at the top of the list?
Well, we touched on it already, and that was the Temperance Flat project. Because
okay, that's number one over any.
It is absolutely
over downtown.
Absolutely
over business.
And I'll explain why.
Okay.
Because the Fulton project was one of our top priorities last year. Well, Fulton is happening. I mean, it's opening. By the end of the year, you'll be driving on it.
Okay.
So we recognize that in Fresno, everything revolves around ag, right? Ag is why we're here.
Right.
Now, what does ag need to survive? What does ag need to be sustainable long-term in the valley? Water. And we recognize that our window of opportunity to get this storage project done and get water storage and get water flowing to the farmers in the valley, that window is this year.
Why?
Because the application to get Temperance Flats funding is due to the State Water Commission on August the 14th.
Will it get there in time?
It will get there in time. But
who has to sign off on it?
The San Joaquin Water Infrastructure Authority, which is a joint powers authority of 5 counties, Fresno, Kings, Tulare, Madera, and I believe Merced is
so that's like 5 counties, right?
Right. They're all working together on this with this joint powers authority to complete the engineering studies, complete all of the technical work that it would take to show the state that they have the funding to put it, or they have the plan to put the funding in to build this dam.
So that application has to be in the office of where?
The California Water Commission.
That's in Sacramento?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
by August 14th. And immediately following that, you've got a year of review and a year by the commissioners.
Okay.
And so that is open season for lobbying. We have to lobby those commissioners and tell them that this project needs to get built.
What if it's there on August 15th?
Well, then it's like missing a deadline in the newspaper business. It doesn't get in.
It doesn't get in.
Right.
And so you have to wait until the following year?
No, it's done.
It's done.
I mean, it's done. This is the window for funding. So
okay, so that's priority number one.
That's priority
over
number
anything.
one. Absolutely.
Because without Temperance Flat, what?
Without Temperance Flat, excuse me, you see what we saw this spring. You see record rainfall, and you see flooding, and you see water continue to flow out of the valley, into the ocean, down and be flooded. It ends up in the river bottom instead of on a farm where it needs to be. So that's priority number one for us, because once that application gets done, we're going to do everything we can to help the JPA make sure that they turn in the absolute best application they can on August 14th, and I know they'll get it done. And then we've got the next year to spend convincing the water commissioners, convincing the legislature, convincing the governor that this is the place that.
And the organization has to turn it in again is the San Joaquin
Water Infrastructure Authority.
Okay, I'm going to write that down. That's the San Joaquin Water Infrastructure Authority.
Yep, and you're going to want him on the show because.
Okay.
We'll get you the information you need. You're going to want them on the show talking about this project because.
Right, and how many people are within that authority, working within that structure?
Well, they have a small staff, but again, it's 2 representatives from each of the 5 counties, elected officials, Board of Supervisors. Right. The representatives representing Fresno County on the Board of Supervisors are Brian Pacheco and Buddy Mendes.
Yeah, I know them both, and they've been on this program.
And
both of them.
And they'll talk temperance. They'll talk your ear off. They're on.
Oh, the last time Buddy was here, I couldn't. Forgive me, but I couldn't shut him up about temperance and water and this and that. But he's a good guy, and I hope he comes back.
And they're the experts on temperance.
Yeah, I know.
I know. Water policy is not really my strong suit.
No, but the chamber's #1 goal is to get that document up to Sacramento, and the Water Coalition people. And so let's move to downtown Fresno.
Sure.
Second priority, I would imagine, would be downtown Fresno.
Yes,
to a certain extent.
To a certain extent, a lot of it has to do with downtown Fresno vis-a-vis the high-speed rail project.
Let's roll the videotape on Fulton District because I do want to talk about Fulton Street, and we'll get to high-speed rail in a moment here and what impact that has or will have if that's ever built. This is the Fulton District. Okay, I have an article here somewhere. It's right here out of the Fresno Bee, published, and you read it. It was published in February 4th, 2017. Talked about all the delays that are happening with this because of the rain, because other problems. The project was the street was supposed to open up, I believe, in May, then June. Now there are more delays. When will this street open up? Any idea?
Mr. Sharton probably would have been the one to ask on that one.
He didn't know.
My understanding is it'll be in the fall. I believe September, October. That's my understanding.
Okay, that's the earliest then.
That's my understanding.
And what were some of the problems? Do we know? Is it construction problems? Is it the companies, the contractors? I mean, we know it's not raining now, but rain was a problem early on, of course, in the spring when we had all the deluge. But what's the holdup now?
I know rain was a problem, like you mentioned earlier in the project, but I've also understand that every time they would rip the street up, they would find, or the mall up, I should say, they would find something. They would
Artifacts.
find artifacts. They would find utility lines that needed to be moved that they didn't know were there because they were just paved over during the construction of the mall. They would find all of those little sorts of snags, and once you get them and rain, it starts to add up. But they're on the right track, and I think by the fall we're going to have a very nice new heart there in downtown.
Okay, so we're looking at the fall, but at the latest, perhaps at the end of the year, right? December, maybe. Fall, maybe December. We don't know because we don't know what kind of snags they're going to run into between now and the fall. So the question has always been and will always be, will just opening up a street entice people to come downtown if you still have to pay to park, if you still have no family entertainment per se, with the exception of maybe a handful or less of restaurants and a Grizzlies game?
Will opening Fulton Street be the silver bullet that cures downtown? No, without question, it won't be.
It won't be.
And I don't think anyone is suggesting that it is. I think people are suggesting that it's a start. You got to start somewhere, and I think that opening Fulton Street will hopefully lead to more private investment down there. There's been millions and millions of dollars in private investment downtown, not necessarily on Fulton Street, but if you look at some of the areas to the north and to the south, the South Stadium project. I mean, I know you've talked about Bitwise time and time again on this show. You think about how much
Jake's been on here.
Absolutely, how much money Jake and Irma and the folks at Bitwise are dumping into downtown. It's incredible.
Well, you got the Darius Assemi project as well.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the. I'll tell you which one to roll here is the downtown #2 because that shows the lofts. I believe that's the Darius Assemi lofts. Is that downtown 2? It is? Okay, eventually you'll be able to see some of the lofts. Is these some of the lofts here? I got to put my glasses on.
That one there, the Van Ness and Inyo, that's a housing authority project.
That's a housing authority project, yeah. And so, but with the Assemi lofts, and you got some of the housing authority projects. You have other projects. So I want to congratulate you. I want to shake your hand because you're maybe the first guy on this program to admit is opening up the street, Fulton Street, the game changer. And your answer was no. You're the first person who's actually said that and agreed with me that no, it's not a game changer, but you're being realistic, and I congratulate you for that, because you said it's a start. What else has to happen down there to get these people from North Fresno to come downtown? Like they're going to River Park, like they're going to Fig Garden.
It's a game changer, but it's not a silver bullet. It's not the one thing that is going to make instantly, overnight, you're going to see flocks of people coming down. And I don't think anybody, John, really thinks that that's what's going to happen. I don't think people think you're going to open the street and all of a sudden you're going to have 200,000 people.
You haven't seen many of my shows because there are people that will argue and debate that issue with you. And but go ahead. What else has to happen to make people, not make people, but entice people to come downtown?
There's got to be retail down there. As you said, there's got to be retail. There's got to be restaurants.
Okay.
There's got to be things for people with kids to do. I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 4-week-old son. I take them to Grizzlies games. I'd love to take them someplace to eat beforehand.
How about a movie theater?
A movie theater would be fantastic. We're not, with 2 small children, they're not big craft beer aficionados, but don't dismiss the craft beer. That's an important part. And if you go downtown, those things are really hopping. But it's going to take more than that. It's going to take private investment. And I think you have folks like Craig in the Downtown Fresno Partnership. We're happy to help. The EDC is happy to help. The city is happy to help. It's going to take those types of people coming down there and bringing in the retail and bringing in the restaurants and the things for people to do on nights when the Grizzlies aren't playing, on nights when, over the off season in the winter. It's going to take a concerted effort to work on some of the crime problems. And I don't think anyone is dismissing those, but I do think that, and I've heard this sentiment a few times in a few places. Well, just let it rot. It's downtown. It's done. It's over.
You've heard that.
I have heard that
from politicians,
members of the community. I haven't heard it from politicians, but I've heard from members of the community.
Anybody from City Hall say that to you?
No.
Okay. Anybody from Congress say that to you?
No, right. Certainly not.
I just want to make sure, because that would be a news story. That would be a big news story there, Nathan. Anyway, caller, go ahead. You're on the air with the president and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. Glad he's here. Glad you're calling in. What's your question?
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to comment on opening Fulton Street. Something else that would help downtown is to get rid of all of those one-way streets, put them back two-way, so that people can get around down there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Thank you.
I would agree with that. It's a little confusing. Fulton is going to be a two-way street, and the bridge over the train tracks there at Tuolumne, the one that's a high-speed rail project where they're raising the bridge, that was a one-way street prior to construction. It's now going to be a two-way street.
Yeah.
So I think they're making some changes there. But I would agree with the caller that type of thing would help making traffic flow a little easier down there.
Right. And so how soon? Because you have so much competition now. Downtown is competing against Manchester. Once that's done, and Manchester is going to be beautiful.
It is.
I've had the GM of the Manchester Center on this program.
He's a good guy.
Yes, I like Mo Bagunu.
Mo will be the chairman of the board of the Chamber of Commerce in 2018.
He will?
Yes.
Well, he's a very smart guy. All right, as you are. But he's not the president yet. Okay. Now, getting back to my question. So downtown is competing against Manchester. They're competing against River Park. They're competing against Fig Garden. They are competing big time against the city of Clovis, which is just down the street.
Right.
So is it, how difficult an uphill climb is it going to be?
It's going to be an uphill climb. I don't think anybody is disputing that, but I think that I think it can happen. I think Craig is absolutely right when he says that there are a lot of good things happening downtown. The video you just showed of all the lofts and the new structures down there are a step in the right direction. and again, I'm a newcomer to this community, so maybe I don't have the same level of frustration that people have had with the decades of attempts to fix downtown.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is it didn't get in this situation overnight, so it's not going to get out of this situation overnight. But
is it unfair to ask people to have to pay to park downtown? George Hofstadter was here. You know George.
I do.
He basically said the other day when he was here, you know what, quit crying and get over it. You got to pay to park downtown. So what?
Well, I think
is that unfair?
I think in most major cities you have to pay to park downtown. I think that's, I think there's...
Is that a deterrent for some people?
It could be. There's a conversation I think to be had about relaxing that for some time. My understanding is that businesses on Fulton Street, we have to stop saying them all, but businesses on Fulton Street, once it reopens, will have the opportunity to validate and help folks pay for that parking. So I think there's some options to be had there. I don't think it's unfair to ask people to pay to park. I can understand the reluctance to do so when you don't pay to park at Fig Garden, you don't pay to park at Fashion Fair, you don't pay to park at Manchester. But I don't think it's unfair. I think when it comes to downtown, there's room for everyone. There is room for all of those shopping venues that you've mentioned. There's room for everybody to exist, and there's room for everybody to thrive. I mentioned earlier that my wife went to Fresno State. Went to grad school.
You did,
she
actually.
Came up from Bakersfield. She'd get on the 41 and head to Shaw and turn right, and off you go. And she told me that the first time she'd ever been to downtown Fresno was when I had taken this job and she came to visit me in the office. Because it was a situation at the time when she went to grad school, here be dragons. It was not some place that you went. And you go down there now, and we work down there. I mean, our office is at Fresno and N. We are part of the downtown.
I know.
We're part of the downtown PBID. We live and work there. There's a lot going on down there. There's more going on down there than you would think.
So what did she think the first time she set eyes on downtown Fresno, your wife?
Maybe call in, honey, and they can explain it. No, but I think she saw potential. And I think that's...
Okay, you brought up a good... I got to stop you there. I don't mean to interrupt. I know I interrupt a lot. But is that how we should view downtown Fresno, as potential?
That's how I view it. I think there's a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm.
My last stop was in Bakersfield, but originally I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis, Missouri is actually, the city of St. Louis has a smaller population than the city of Fresno.
Yeah.
The city of St. Louis is about 350,000.
Okay.
But very similar. Downtown has been neglected for decades.
How is it now? People
move out to the suburbs. It's a very similar track. They're moving on their way up. They're revitalizing. People go downtown for baseball. That's what they go downtown for.
They go downtown for the Cardinals.
They go downtown for the Cardinals. They go downtown for beer.
Yeah.
Sound familiar?
That's it.
We got beer and baseball downtown in Fresno. Sound familiar?
Only difference is they are, St. Louis has one of the most historic and beloved teams in the history of Major League Baseball. We have the Grizzlies.
If you have another hour, we can talk about the Cardinals, but I didn't think so.
Yeah.
But very similar. It's potential. It's people that are willing to go down there and make that private investment, and that's what it's going to take. St. Louis is on the right track. They got a ways to go, but they're getting there.
Yeah.
Losing the football team probably didn't help.
Oh, yeah.
But
I know.
But Fresno is very similar. You got people that are willing to make that private investment. They're moving on the right track.
Yeah. No, I do like the Cardinals. I didn't like the Cardinals when they had Matt Holliday. I'm glad he's gone, but he's on the Yankees.
It's a rough year. We could sure use him.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll get on to another topic. Speaking of baseball, let's roll a videotape on the Grizzlies 2015. We got video from 2015. These are the Fresno Grizzlies, your national champions, by the way. You weren't here in 2015, but they won the national title that year. Here they are in uniform back then and celebrating that national championship victory, of course. The year before, and let me ask you something. Okay, Chris Cummings, and I know you know him. Chris is a dear friend of mine and dear friend of this program. He's been on so many times, and I've talked to him a couple of times the past week or so, and texted him and all this kind of stuff. So you got this pending sale now. Council said yes to the new agreement. What impact, if any, is this going to have on downtown? The sale of this team, which looks like it may go through. I think it's 50-50. Go ahead.
I think one of the cool things about this sale is, and kudos to the council for supporting it unanimously.
Yeah.
And kudos to the Brand administration, City Manager Rudd, Mayor Brand, and the folks that were involved with getting this deal done. Kudos to them for putting the Grizzlies in a position where they could be sustainable financially long term, and putting in a clause in the agreement that the team can't move for at least 5 years.
Yeah, well, will they pay a penalty of like
they pay a penalty if
$4
they
million?
do. Right. So, Chukchansi Park is a city-owned asset. Whatever you think about the
Chukchansi Park, roll the videotape, the aerial.
Whatever you think about the viability of Chukchansi Park, and should the city have gotten into this?
You like that park, do you?
I do. It's beautiful.
Look at that aerial
I love
shot.
it.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Whatever you think of, should the city have built a ballpark downtown?
It's not Busch Stadium.
It's no Busch Stadium, but what is?
Yeah.
Whatever you think of that, it's here. The city owns it. If
It's
the
here to stay, right?
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Hang on, caller. Get to you in a moment. Go ahead.
If something happens to the Grizzlies and the team folds and they move out or whatever the case might be, now you have an empty city asset.
Not good.
Not good.
Oh,
Would
no.
you rather have, and it's not something that you can use for, I don't know what else.
Soccer.
You can use it for soccer to a point. The
Soccer
field,
sells
the
out, by
field
the
size is an issue, but you can only use it for so many things. So would you rather have a team in there playing 70 nights a year, bringing some folks downtown, bringing some revenue into the city, or would you rather have nothing? I think they had to do what they had to do to make the team viable.
We're so short on time. Caller, I'm glad you called, so please try to make it as quick as possible. I appreciate you calling in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to know what the Chamber's position is on the substations that just opened in the Tower District in terms of expanding that citywide.
Yeah, you're talking about the police substation, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, caller. I appreciate that. Police substation just opened up in a tower. You probably read about that.
Yes. We were out there yesterday. I believe it was yesterday, was it?
Yeah, yesterday or the day before.
When you have a newborn, the days really run together.
I know.
But, crime's a major issue in Fresno, and anything we can do to expand the police department, expand police coverage, our businesses tell us all the time that crime is a concern. So
don't
anything
have
we can
time
do
to talk about police, so we'll talk to Brand about that tomorrow. But
Please.
Getting back to the Grizzlies, is it going to make an impact or make a difference one way or the other if they stay? You say yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, it will have an impact.
You don't want
It's
that.
good that they're selling the team.
It is.
It's good that you have some potential buyers that look like it's serious now because you want that team in there.
Right. And what my hope is that whoever these new owners are, that they continue.
I have their names right here, by the way, if you want them.
If they continue the work that Mr. Cummings and Derek Franks, the general manager, they continue the work that the Grizzlies do to reach out to the community.
Well, maybe they can reach beyond what Derek Franks and Chris Cummings have done.
Right.
And Chris Cummings has done a lot.
They have.
With the creative nature of their promotions and everything else, what else could they possibly do?
But the things that they do to support kids, youth baseball in this community, they had their youth baseball camp charities. They are fantastic community partners. And every time I go down to the ballpark, and we go quite frequently, we're going tonight. I want one of those Simpsons jerseys, so we'll go tonight. I'm amazed at what a treasure it is. I really am. And
That's a beautiful ballpark.
It's a great ballpark. I mean,
family friendly.
Family friendly. It's not expensive to go.
I know.
And I would love to see the place packed every night. I'm a baseball fan. I'm very passionate about it. But I would love to see. I'd love to see the place packed every night. Yeah. So I hope that I do believe that the Grizzlies being here long term is a good thing.
Hey, if you didn't have a newborn, you could drive up to Sacramento with me on Friday night and see the rehab assignment for Madison Bumgarner up there in Sacramento.
Never heard of him.
And they're playing the Grizzlies, as a matter of fact, on Friday night in Sacramento. How about that?
I hope the Grizzlies light him up.
All right. Nathan, always good to see you.
My pleasure,
and I hope
Johnny.
You can come back again and be a friend of this program, much like Al Smith who has been over the years. All right. You're welcome here anytime.
Thank you.
All right, Nathan, the president and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce right here in the city of Fresno. Tomorrow it's Mayor Lee Brand, so get ready, strap in. See you tomorrow. Have a good day.
Explore strange new worlds on MeTV. Seek out new life.
I've seen old photographs of this period. Let's get out of here.
And new civilizations.